Bernard, the reporting of housing and the property market has gone from boom to bust. One moment it was prices are going through the roof every month. Now it's doom again. Has the media overshot again on this?
Absolutely not. People in New Zealand are now obsessed with property values because look back, let's say 20, 30 years ago, where the stock market actually meant something. It represented about half of our net worth. And the house prices were important, but not nearly as important as they are now. Almost 70 to 80% of our net worth is now tied up in our houses, and we've had a boom in house price values and in debt attached to that house. So now it really matters when house prices move up or down, or when interest rates move up or down, because it directly affects our wealth and how much disposable income we've got.
Ganesh, have we talked too much about property already?
Short answer, yes. There's a glaring missing element in here. All we talk about is property prices, petrol prices, or the finance markets. Every news media will have at 6:30, whatever it is, little arrow showing that the share market has gone up or our little exchange rate has gone down. Nowhere in there is there anything about the economy. It's all about the finance markets. And where are the indicators, or where are the reporting of what's happening in the real economy? Who's producing? Who's losing jobs? Who's creating jobs? What are we selling overseas? What are we bringing in? All of those sorts of indicators, yes, they might be dull and unexciting, but if we're going to get a populace in New Zealand that are able to invest wisely and able to understand the economy, then those sorts of messages have got to somehow get out there.
But that's not the job of the news media. Our job
I agree, but it's a job of ours, is it not?
But
and why we perpetuate it, why keep on talking about
property? To develop economic literacy in the audience.
Our job is to provide useful information, and if it's entertaining, that's great, to the broadest number of people. What do people care about? They care about how much money they've got in their pocket to spend, what's happening to their house prices and maybe their share prices. Right now, it's all about house prices. That's what the broad public care about. Now, I write for a business audience too, and I write 95% of my time about, as you say, the real things that matter. I spent a lot of time today writing about the NZIER's QSBO. I thought it was fascinating, but it's not going to get to the front of the bulletin. But what we're seeing here is that the front page editors and the bulletin editors for the main nightly newses have suddenly worked out this is a story that sells. They look at the figures. When, for example, the Herald on Sunday, over the last 6 months or so, started running housing stories, firstly boom stories, then bust stories, and worked out week on week, because they follow the numbers, that their numbers blipped up and they did a housing story on the front page. Of course they're going to do that.
Well, I mean, how many housing stories have there been on the cover of the Listener in the past 2 years?
Exactly.
I think that rule plays through.
But one guarantee I can give you is that the very first indicator of an upturn in any area is going to be the front page, because everyone's swung to the recession stories. This is the fashion at the moment, and if you want to get on the front page and you're an ambitious young journalist, you write a recession story. The first journo gets an indicator showing a move up will capture the front page, because that'll be the next wave. So you can be absolutely certain that the tide's going a recession, gloom, boom, boom. It probably started in New Zealand in October. It's probably just about finished by now. But the first big indicators that show things are coming right will be the front page news, and then you'll start to have a whole flurry of stories about how this is picking up and how that's picking up, and there'll be tiny points move, but in fact that'll be the new fashion, and the mass media will all move en masse to the next one, and the cycle will ride its way out.
And there is an analysis you can make of this, and in fact in the States there are people who measure the number of times the word recession goes into newspapers and on television and radio, and they monitor the number of times it's used, and when it's going up they can actually use it as a forward indicator of what's actually happening in the real economy. Whether you can do that in New Zealand, where we probably don't have enough media to make that work, is another thing.
So the media drives sentiment, and sentiment drives the real economy. That's terrifying.
Yeah, there's a point I should bring up on, I think. When the economy goes bad and starts to slow down, advertising in real estate doesn't go down. No, right. It actually goes up. So if you're running media to manipulate a market, what you want to have is the market actually slowing down a bit, because the advertising revenue gets bigger and they have to advertise for much longer. So in real estate advertising, they actually don't want to boom because there's fewer, they sell so fast you can't get them in the paper sometimes. And people are so confident of selling they don't need to advertise. So it works in reverse of what some journalists think.
The untold story here is that the last year to 2 years, in particular the last 3 or 4 years, for the newspaper companies in particular, have been boom times. You can see it in their publicly released accounts, although Barry's accounts may not be publicly available. But you can see that surging real estate advertising, and particularly at this point of the market where a lot of people are putting their houses on the market, they have to put their ad in the paper. And I think in the last weekend I saw a record size for the Herald's weekend houses for sale thing. Now that'll last for 6 months or so until everyone gets exhausted, they take their ad out of the paper and the money starts to flow away. But it is actually boom time for newspapers.
Well, I must say, as a sometime print journalist, I feel bound to ask where all the money's going. But we'd better stop here. Just finally, marks out of 10, Ganesh, for the way that the media is currently covering the economy.
The economy?
Yeah.
No change that it has been in the past 10 years. It's probably mainstream media, probably about 2 out of 10.
Ooh. Bernard?
Well, it actually matters when we have a recession. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth actually means something. It means something for incomes. It certainly means something for asset prices, which is what people care about. And that's our job, to report on things that people care about.
If I was a sub, I'd be cutting your column. Marks out of 10, Bernard.
We predicted 6 weeks ago that house prices would fall 30%. I got very grumpy calls from a lot of people saying, "You're nuts,
no,
that's
you're not
never
giving me a
happened."
mark out of 10, Barry. Barry.
Well, I think they get 5 out of 10 because they're the mass media. They're responding to what the audience wants, and although they should be writing about the economy, it's really boring to the masses, and that's the reason it's not on the front page of the mass media. But you dig down a level, you'll find that those business papers have got specialist journos. They know what's going on. All this finance company falling over was predicted a year and a half ago. There's no big surprises about it.
Well, we'll finish on that. Thank you, gentlemen.